And welcome back from a shorter break than we expected. I'm Kevin Boris from the 9 Years Podcast. This is the 2018 Don's Trust Elections Candidate Interviews, and I've been joined by Sean McLaughlin. Hi, Sean.
Hi, good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you for standing first, and thank you for being here. So my colleague Nick Draper has spent much of his time, clearly, coming up with anagrams of the candidates' names, just to put you all at ease.
Okay.
So yours is Snog Halal Mince, which I think is one of the best ones.
Excellent.
Snog Halal Mince. That's quite nice, isn't it?
Yeah, very nice.
Covers all bases.
Not sure where you go with that, but...
No, I think we go nowhere with it and ignore it and move on to the real things. So, everyone, this is Sean McLaughlin. What do you do for a job, Sean?
I'm a chartered accountant and I work for a bank as their finance director. I've been doing that for 10 years.
Okay. Whereabouts is that?
It's in the City of London. It's opposite the Bank of England. It's a subsidiary of a foreign bank. I set it up with the chief executive 10 years ago from scratch, and we currently employ 130 people. We made 22 million in 2017, and we'll do a lot better than that this year.
Excellent. So the word benefactor has just sprung into my head. I'll remove that.
Unfortunately, we don't own it.
No, I know. I'm
just
kidding,
run
I'm
it.
kidding. It's just a word I like. So the big question, where do you watch games from?
Interesting, I watch it from what used to be called the family stand, because my children were... I took my son to his first game at 8 at Sellers Park, Manchester City, 1-0 down at half-time, 1-2-1. He was hooked.
Yes, I remember that one.
And of course, very young when we started, so I got him and my daughter season tickets in the family block, which is K, and I've actually stayed there ever since because you get to know everyone around you.
Yeah.
I keep thinking I should possibly go back to the terraces, but I know everyone. I'd enjoy speaking to people around me, but I do enjoy the terraces at the away games.
That's part of being a fan of any club, isn't it? It's the familiarity of where you are and where with people. You've been standing. I've known some people for over 30 years watching football with them, and I've never been to their house. They've never been to my house. It's just a community thing. The word community is one of those words that I despair of, but sometimes it does actually work, and it does work with this.
Well, an interesting anecdote: the Sutton game, the very first game.
Yeah.
I was two minds whether to go, but I convinced myself it was the future and we should go. And it was packed, as you remember. I queued up behind the goal, got in behind the goal, and I heard a voice I recognised, and I turned round, and it was the chap that sat behind me at Sellers Park.
Oh wow.
And it's with his daughter. Spooky. But
Yep.
there you go.
No,
And had a great chat and picked up as if we had not seen each other. Well, we hadn't seen each other for a while. So.
Yeah. Excellent. That's a good story. I like that. Nice. That's what it's about, though, isn't it? It's about being in a community side of things. Okay, so we've got questions from members. We've got questions from live questions from YouTube, and at the end we've got, because the Wimbledon Football Club, original football club, was formed in November 1889. It is November. So we've got 89 seconds of fun questions for you, rapid fire. So if you do have a cold, maybe it's slightly delayed, but we'll help you out.
It'll be
It's
fun.
fine. Okay, so let's go to the actual questions. So according to your manifesto, you spent a lot of time working on stadium matters, and you're a member of the Stadium Oversight Committee. Can you explain what that role actually entails?
We've been liaising with Eric and with Joe Giordano, who's the consultant that we've got employed. Looking at the plans, looking at the budgets. We had the meeting with the football club board and us as representative of on the stadium committee. It's three of us. It's Roger, Colin, and myself. And we agreed with the football club's decision to terminate Scott's contract. Recently, Colin, I've been finishing off the accounts for the Don's Trust for the year, so Colin's been spending more time and spent a lot of time in the last week meeting with the new architects that we've got involved. They're not been appointed yet, they're helping us to value engineer the contract, and that's what Eric was talking about if you went to the SGM on Thursday. But it's acting as a liaison point so we can get into more of the detail as to the design and the costs.
Okay, thank you. So you say one of your priorities, if you're re-elected, is planning for the future financial needs and structure so that the new stadium is going to bring us. So surely this is a job for the football club board rather than the Don's Trust board. Discuss.
The football club needs a plan, but the Don's Trust needs to oversight it. And as I mentioned in the manifesto, I was recommended that we needed to get in a chief operating officer to recognise that the structure of the club in the new ground is going to be completely different. We're going to have, hopefully, double the fans. We're going to have a lot of function rooms that we can use, which we need to maximise revenue from. And we'll need to employ more staff. and it's making sure that we do that in the right planned way and actually oversighting that that's done. So the detailed recommendations I'd expect to come from the Football Club Board, but the Dons Trust needs to take a key role in agreeing those and challenging them as well.
Okay, so slightly off topic, you referred there to the new ground, nicely done. There's much talk about what to call it, not in terms of sponsorship, but people are referring to it as New Plough Lane. That gets a lot of people annoyed. Surprising the things that people get cross about. But calling it New Plough Lane, which I haven't done, what do you refer to it as? I mean, if you're discussing it with your friends at a game and talking about the new stadium, do you describe it as New Plough Lane? Because someone's written in with a question, new lowercase n, nicely done. So what it's a proper topic, this.
I just refer it to the new ground.
Just the new ground, okay. So, fine, okay, I'll move on from that. Because it's one thing that I've been asked to ask a question, was asking what they call the ground. It's a strange one, anyway. So, you are the treasurer of the Dons Trust, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and you've been in that role for 12 years.
I have, yes.
Yeah.
I volunteered one evening in March. I saw it on the guest book that the previous treasurer had resigned, and I admittedly had a couple of drinks at the time, and I volunteered, and I didn't expect to hear back, but Eric got in touch, and he arranged to meet me to explain what he thought the role was in the car park in between him parking cars. So.
Excellent.
And the rest is history.
That's 12 years ago. Well, thank you for your sterling service. So, can you explain to our viewers maybe how the membership fees are spent, if the trust makes a profit or not, and what happens to those profits if there are any?
So, ultimately, any profits that's not spent on anything else goes into the club in the way of buying new shares. So, it makes a profit, let's say about £100,000. We currently are spending £25,000 supporting the ladies team, which has been increased recently. So that's one of the key amounts we spend. The Dons draw now is totally allocated to the academy, and that generates about £75,000. And then the balance, obviously there are expenses. So the junior Dons has various expenses, various events we put on there. And then the balance will say we'll be buying shares. So every other year we'll buy shares in the football club, which is an efficient way of putting money into the club.
Okay.
But if you look at the accounts, which will be out soon, there's a memorandum section at the end which will detail the amount we make and the key things that are spent on.
Fine. Here's again a slightly off-field or left-field question. Is that I did a sort of a straw poll a few weeks ago at a game, and there was surprising number of people who didn't really know what the Dons Trust did, even though some of them were members. Now, this is why I can't get my head around. So, if you're a member of a trust, but you don't really know what it does, I won't name them, one member of the Dons Trust didn't know that the Dons Trust was ineffectively ran the club and the Football Club Board were responsible to the Dons Trust Board. So, in terms of communication, we discuss communication a lot here. How do you think that the Dons Trust Board can get their message across to its own members and people who are maybe not members yet, or have been and have kind of lapsed, to become a member? Because maybe people don't really know what the board does or the trust does.
Well, if you look at some of the logo that's being used, which clearly now states owners of the club, I think it is an important point. The Dons Trust, you have to remember, was set up before the club was set up. Now, in an ideal world, it may have been set up with a different name. And we have talked about whether the name should be changed. Some people strongly believe we should keep it, and some people, funny enough, strongly believe we should change it. But by trying to change the logo and actually bring in to say clearly, as it says, well, it does what it says on the tin, that we own the football club. But it's an interesting conundrum as to whether we should completely change the name.
So what, off the top of your head, what would you change it to then? If it was no longer Dons Trust, what would it be?
Well, what it actually is the Supporters Society, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you could start with Wimbledon Supporters Society, owners of the trust. It's the owner of this club, sorry.
Yeah.
But that would be the logical name to make it quite clear.
Years ago, when the training coats come out, the long padded coats had the Dons logo on, and underneath club owner was actually stitched onto the jacket. I know quite a few people have that. That kind of said that's what we are. You're a club owner. Maybe that's
which is what the new logo that we've been using is saying.
Yeah.
So I think it's a very good idea.
It's come back. Excellent. Okay. So
we have talked about whether we should start looking to get some Don's Trust merchandise, but to be honest, whilst they were very nice pieces of clothing and kit last time, it lost money. People didn't buy them. And so the view is it would actually cost too much to make them, and it would be a waste of money that could otherwise go into the club.
Yeah, that's a fair point.
But it would be nice if we could. If there was a great demand for it, it would be a lovely thing to do.
Trench coat was the word I was thinking of, but it's not a trench coat. I don't know what they're called. Anyway, okay, we've got 4 questions for you, Sean, which is great. Anyway, 2 more questions here. How do you think that either raising or lowering the membership fee would affect membership numbers?
I think membership numbers have steadily risen. They plateaued last year. I think if we raised it above the current fee, I think that would certainly be a disincentive. I'm not sure that by reducing the membership fee that would actually encourage more members, because if you look at the number of members we have versus the attendance, it's a very high percentage.
Yeah. So in the last Don's Trust elections, I think it's right, 27% of Don's Trust members voted, which is very, very low, isn't it? It's like worse than a European elections.
Very disappointing.
So how can the Don's Trust board improve that? What can you actually do to get people more engaged?
I mean, it's been talked about, and it's one of the things which is difficult. Last year, Hannah actually came on board and did quite a bit on the social media, but didn't seem to move the dial that much, unfortunately. I'm hoping that the videos which you're kindly doing, which will be available, I understand, online afterwards, will help do that. But also, I'm hoping that with the number of candidates that are standing, that should promote more interest in voting. Now, I think last time there were 5 candidates for 4 positions, I think, or was it 6 for 5?
Yeah.
And so I suppose there wasn't that much choice. I'm hoping now that with the amount of choice people have got, that will spur people into action. But it is difficult. If you looked at the SGM on Thursday, now I thought that would be very well attended. If you strip out the football club board, Don's Trust board that were there, and the people standing for election, it was less than 60 people. Which is interesting when you think that there's a lot of discussion on social media about where we are, what's going on, should we be changing things. Yeah. I expect there to be a lot more people, but there's not. So it's trying to break that antipathy across the board and not just for the elections.
Yep.
If the SGMs had 500 people and we were getting less than that voting, then you'd be wanting to know why. But I think it's across the piece. But it's difficult to say. We had a meeting in the Prince of Wales, which actually was reasonably well attended, but I thought we'd get more people. And it's just trying to find different ways to engage with the members, I think.
So Thursday at the Trust SGM, you said that you thought electing 4 new board members would be dangerous. Why would you?
I don't think I said. If I said dangerous, that's the wrong word.
Apparently, yes. I wasn't there, but you did apparently say.
Well, you weren't there, and I can't remember saying it. So, but I'm not sure. I think you need continuity and change. Would be my view. And I think it is going to be a very key period for the club and the trust in the next 2 years. We'll be in the new ground, and there's a lot of change needed going on. And I think new members on the board do find it hard to get up to speed with what's going on. And obviously, if you change half the board, that's a lot of people to get up to speed. That's why I think it would be a risk. But I think the biggest danger is would not be having anyone changing. And I firmly believe that the members should take the opportunity to at least elect 1 or 2 new members.
Sure. Okay, thank you. So, Stuart Deacons has 4 questions.
I do. It's really busy at the moment. Loads of
viewers
viewers and questions coming in.
It's obviously the lunchtime drinking slot.
Probably is. Everyone's woken up from travelling home from Harringay yesterday.
Some people have actually got home,
They're probably dried out.
So, question from Mark Jones. And Mark Jones, thank you for watching us here. You don't need to be a Don's Trust board member to be a treasurer. Is that correct?
Probably yes. I don't know. But it would be unusual not to be. Sorry. I think it would be unusual for the treasurer not to be a member of the Don's Trust board. Yeah. But I haven't actually looked into the constitution as to whether you have to be or not.
Okay. Good question, though. Thank you, Mark.
Okay, next question is from Dominic.
Is Mark interested in being the treasurer, by the way?
We don't have to ask
I don't know. Mark is posting, so I'm sure Mark, if you're listening, he can push that back in.
You can respond, Mark.
Next one is from Dominique, who's actually who's been in quite a bit, and I've not got his name on there. So his question is: Costa Coffee feels different from Fat Boys. What visual and physical structures would you put into the plough lane, or new plough lane as we're calling it, to make fans feel you're entering a special fans club?
It's an interesting question. I mean, I don't like Costa Coffee.
Or any other well-known coffee makers.
We need to make it clear that we are AFC Wimbledon, that we are a fan-zone club, and that we are unique. My skills are more on the financial than on the marketing, and I would probably look to defer to someone else a bit brighter in that area to come up with that view. But that's what we need. They're the key messages. Who we are and why we're special.
Still nothing from Gary Jordan, by the way. So we still don't know what Gary Jordan meant by his tweet. So Gary, if you're out there, do let us know. Stu, 2 more questions.
Mark Jones actually replied, live interaction. No, Mark Jones says, no, you can keep that role, Sean.
Thanks, Mark. Well, Mark's probably the one to be designing the visuals or helping on that side, because that's more his
He can
skill
design
set.
a Treasurer's logo for you. There you go.
Next question is from Jersey Dabrowski. Jersey, as we know, and I do apologise, Jersey, if I've done you no service on that one. His question is, do you think we are fleecing our fans too much rather than focusing on keeping them happy? Every decision that affects the majority of the fans is based around maximising profit.
That's the first time I've ever heard anyone use the word fleecing our fans. I think the answer is no. I think we didn't change the prices this year, the ticket prices, so if we were looking to fleece the fans, we would have done. So I think it's a fine balancing act. The playing budget is basically the revenue we make versus the minimum level of expenditure that we make, and we do run on a shoestring, and there's a fine balance to be struck, but fleecing the fans, absolutely not.
Okay, last one, Stu, before we go out.
Yeah, so from Brian Everett, and this is thank you from Columbus, where he's watching from. What would you do to better engage international fans, such as myself? How can we help volunteer or promote the club from afar?
Go Crew, not Crew the knee.
Volunteering is always going to be difficult in another continent. There's a limit to what information you can share outside the EU for various dull things like GDPR. But I think if the key thing they can do is help promote the club in their location, possibly form a local supporters society, encourage them to become members of the trust. And I know there is a Wombles Down Under Support Society which produce an exceptionally good newsletter. Perhaps we should be sharing that with him, and he can look at that as to whether that's something he would like to try and replicate in the States.
There's quite a few fans in the States, isn't there? I mean,
I think there are,
Dan Baker, for example, obviously he was from Wimbledon. There's been quite a few. There's San Francisco Dons. There's a few people. There's Sweden, Norway.
So I think maybe he needs to set up the North American Dons, or the Dons over the pond. There we go.
There we go. You've done it.
In
Excellent. Right. Nice one.
Stealing Mark Jones's job.
Okay, so we now have 89 seconds of questions. Rapid fire questions. Ready, Sean?
I am.
Okay. These are slightly bizarre, but not quite as bizarre as the ones we asked Hannah.
Okay,
Ready?
3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, peanut butter or jam?
Jam.
Sky News, BBC News.
BBC News.
Manchester United or Manchester City?
Ooh.
It's a tough one, isn't it?
It would have been City, but I have to say United now.
Okay, Battenberg.
Have you read the papers?
Oh yes, Battenberg or Madeira? Not
Madeira.
Is that Battenberg in Germany or Madeira as the island, or are we talking about cakes? It's the cakes, it's the cakes.
I assumed it was, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to buy either.
That's fine, that's true.
60 seconds.
iFollow or iPlayer?
iPlayer.
Would you rather be constantly itchy or constantly sticky?
Sticky.
Sticky, okay. Graham Norton or Jonathan Ross?
Oh, Graham Norton, hands down.
Okay. Cold bath or cold shower?
Cold shower, quicker.
Would you rather live without colour or live without sound?
Oh, that's an intense one.
Isn't it? It's a bit deep, isn't it?
Without colour.
Without colour. Should self-service checkouts be banned? Yes or no?
No, the noise they make and that constant voice that irritates should be.
Okay. Social media, positive or negative?
Potentially positive.
Passenger or driver?
Driver.
New Year's Eve, in or out?
Out.
League One is our ceiling as a football club, yes or no?
No.
Finally, when you're making tea, bag first or milk first?
Oh, bag first.
Good answer.
There we go.
Ding the bell.
I'm going to when it's 0.
Aha! I don't know why I'm doing that. I'm amusing myself in doing that. I'll probably have to stop because someone was frightened earlier on. Anyway, so Sean, thank you for that. Thank you for your time. Good answers, and thank you for standing as well. Let's get this across. One thing I do want to mention, thanks to John Dolan, because John is here, the election secretary, and John is doing a great job making his tea. So thank you.
John's done a remarkable job. But thanks to all of you, though, for giving up your time on a Saturday.
No, thank you all.
It's very good of you. Hopefully it'll encourage interest.
Well, that's what we want. We want people to have seen you as a person, not just a name and a photograph. You can see what you offer. So, Sean, thank you. Stuart wants to add something.
Just very quickly, we're talking about international fans. Lawrence Lown has said there is a US Dons Facebook group and also an international one too. And we've got Peter Stedman. I live in Tel Aviv, the Holy Land. So we've got a few international people listening.
It's difficult with Israel, isn't it? Okay, so thank you very much indeed. Sean, we don't want to get into politics about Israel and that kind of stuff. I live next door to a Palestinian. It's very difficult. So thank you very much indeed for your time. Join us again at 2 o'clock with the second session. However, the second session will be on a new video stream. So visit us at 9yrspodcast.org at about 1:55 for the link to the second broadcast. And that starts with Anna Kingsley. So, Sean, thank you, and thanks for watching. See you later.
Thank you very much.